Hello again from CNN Center. I'm Natalie Allen. If you're just joining us, we're monitoring a story developing out of Hawaii, which is seeing tsunami waves coming ashore right now. Not as big as they had anticipated. That's the good news, but still coming ashore. And let's get the latest from the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. I believe Gerard Fryer has been giving people an update via KITV. Here he is.
Down below 30 centimeters peak to trough, then we cancel the advisory. The mistake we made with the Japan tsunami was that we were just looking at those 13 points, and they didn't tell us what was happening in other places, and we actually canceled a little bit too early.
But that is something that you've been talking about throughout the evening, that even though the waves that are coming in are going down, you still have that concern within the islands and the energy that's generated in that way. And that's what's created all those variations in the bays and the different areas around the islands the last time. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, this tsunami, there's no question, this tsunami is big enough to generate troublesome currents. Fortunately, it's the middle of the night, so I don't think many people are going to go swimming. If they did, they would get into difficulties, no question.
We're told of another sign that out in California, that based off of that, there's a little bit more optimism, because you're seeing that the trends are basically what you guys have predicted. Is that fair to say?
It's a little too early.
Okay.
We really need to wait for another wave. Excuse me, I have to go back.
Gerard Fryer again.
So again, that was Gerard Fryer from the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, and no surprise that he was pulled back, because they're trying to gauge as best they can as to when they can reach the point of downgrading. It's not going to happen right away. They still have at least a couple more cycles that they have to go through before they feel like they've reached the peak of some of these waves coming in. And again, as we've been mentioning, everything that's going to help happen within the islands as well, because of the energy generated that way. So it's still going to take a little bit longer, but all in all, they're seeing levels a little bit lower, and so hopefully within the next couple of cycles, maybe an hour or two, we can get some concrete information as to when they may move to reducing the warning level out there. I'll go ahead and send it back to you guys.
Thanks so much, Laura. And you know, it's been so interesting when he said that it's actually a good thing that it happened at night. I know for evacuations that makes it tough, but it's good because he said that even though these waves aren't necessarily as large as they first had predicted, they can generate some really troublesome currents that can be very dangerous for swimmers. It was a nice weather today. There were probably a lot of people out about on the beach. Yeah. So this is a blessing that it happened when it's dark outside, and hopefully no one out there in those waters.
It's a good timing any time, and you think. And you know, he says they feel that maybe the forecast was an over-prediction, but you'll never know till it's finished what was going to happen, and over-prediction is better than an under-prediction.
And Dr. Fryer made a good point about the last event about dropping the tsunami advisory warning too early, because that's after the drop, it was dropped is when we had all those problems in Kona. So we still don't know. Remember, folks, we're only in our 4th wave, and these things sometimes could go on 10, maybe 15, 20 waves. So it could be a long night, but so far so good. Of the top, of the first 3 waves so far, we got some wave heights here. The largest that we've seen so far coming in 7 inches in Waianae, 17 in Haleiwa, 16 at Makapu'u, 7 inches at Hanalei, 8 inches at Hilo, and topping the list, 23 inches at Kahului Harbor, and actually 30 inches now. So yeah, I mean, all in all, it's big enough to cause problems, in the harbors, maybe strong currents, but not quite big enough to cause destruction or problems on shore. And this is what, but it looks like it may have been an overprediction of 3 feet to 7 feet.
Catherine Cruz has been out there in Waikiki, and Catherine, you've been taking a look at the water, seeing any changes at all?
Well, actually, I was upstairs after I hung up with you. I went upstairs, and we were watching from the 2nd floor and didn't see much. A lot of tourists actually moved back and went back in, I guess, to their hotels when they didn't see any waves out there on the beach. I'm actually up here by Waikiki Elementary School, where there are about a dozen police officers lined up. All the cars are lined up along Pake Avenue. They're staging. A lot of these officers are actually from the Waikiki substation, and that place is all locked down. As you mentioned, all the first responders have moved back. So this is where everybody's staging, waiting for the all clear. And I did actually talk to a couple of homeless people who were on the beach they heard the sirens, and they packed up all their things and moved up to higher ground. So
all right, KITV's coverage there in Hawaii. Tsunami warning still going on. They've seen 4 waves, about 1.5 feet, not the 3 to 6 feet waves that they had predicted. So that's the good news. But it's been an interesting night for the folks there in Hawaii who live there, and all the tourists are there. A big party weekend in Hawaii, Saturday night before Halloween. One party had 15,000 people near the beach. They had to get up and get out of the way, and everyone had 1 hour to evacuate and get to higher ground just in case this tsunami did generate the waves that they had predicted. So they still expect more waves to come in. They're continuing to monitor it there at the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center before they release this warning, because they did that earlier one time and they still had some trouble at some outlying islands. All of Hawaii under threat from this tsunami. Let's go to our meteorologist, Tom Sater, at the World Weather Center. And if people are just joining us, Tom, they might be interested why Hawaii was dead on target from an earthquake that happened on the just outside western Canada's shore.
Yeah, right. In fact, this is an area known for its earthquakes. In the last 40 years, there have been 7 quakes that have registered 6.0 or greater. Now, you've got to go back to, 1949 to find a quake much larger at 8.1, and that was just 100 kilometers to the northwest of this site. Now, of course, take a look at what we're talking about. This is a 7.7. The depth is not extremely shallow, but it's not very deep at all. However, we've got to take a closer look at this area to really see the history and why the tsunami wasn't as large, maybe why it was nowhere near what they had in Japan. Of course, let's talk about first of what we talk about when we talk about the magnitude and how many of these of this size occur. I mean, between 7.0 and 7.9, this is a major earthquake. There is major shaking, and I'll talk more about the region for you in just a moment, but we only have 15 of these a year across the entire globe. So let me show you on our Earth image here of where this area is, and we'll talk about the tectonic plates involved. We have the Pacific plate, if we could show you the region for you, and we'll get to that. The tectonic plate and the North American plate. It wasn't a total subduction where one plate falls quickly below the other. This was called what we call an oblique thrust. There was some subduction, which causes a rise in the water, but there was also a parallel shift. So unlike in Fukushima, when we had that large tsunami, which was an incredible thrust, we find a little bit of a slip. So we didn't have that mass, of course, what we talk about when the water's moving. Now, for the most part, as we talked about, this was relatively shallow. It's 17 kilometers. There was a lot of shaking going on. But to give you an idea, this area off British Columbia is not inhabited. It's forest land. There's a lot of forest industry there. So again, we don't have a shake map that's going to resemble much in the way of damage to the local area. But being so far away, talking about, Natalie, the sensors that are used in the ocean to really detect the energy put a spike directly from British Columbia toward the Hawaiian Islands. But we'll get more into that region and talk more about the history in a little bit.
All very interesting. Thanks so much, Tom. So a few more seconds to go here before we take a quick break. Just want to let you know that all okay in Hawaii so far as these waves start to move ashore. 4 have come ashore, just 1.5 feet so far, but we'll continue to monitor it and be right back.